All right. Welcome in. Happy Monday, everybody. It's that time again. 7 p.m. Monday night. It is time for Monday Live. I'm Jason Priester, allclemsontigers.com. Same thing we do every Monday night, man. We'll sit here, we'll chop it up for the next 60, 70, 80, 90 minutes, whatever. Depending on what kind of conversation we got going on and all that good stuff. I imagine there will be no shortage of topics tonight. It's not like it's been some slow news weekend or anything. If you are a recruiting junkie, then this is probably the week for you. Nice early signing days, or let's say the early signing period starts on Wednesday. A bulk of Clemson's class is going to be signed, sealed, and delivered come the end of Wednesday. Might even have a little signing day drama this year. You don't get much of that anymore. You probably got to go back to maybe Tristan Lee. Golly, off the top of my head, that might be the last, real big surprise Clemson fans got on signing day. Just doesn't happen as often as it used to. Clemson likes to have a lot of these things locked up, but in today's landscape with the portal and all of that stuff, it's going to get harder and harder to do that. You'll always have guys leaving after the season, transferring out, and you're gonna have to plug holes one way or the other. So, if it's not the high school ranks, you got to go the portal route. So, and Clemson's even making some efforts to go that route this go around. Well, we'll see if they land anybody, but at least you got to feel good that the effort's being made. Couple of new names on the radar coming out of the weekend. For a long time, it was just assumed, and even by myself, and I probably should have seen it. I'm kind of kicking myself that I didn't. That Bradley Shaw was going to be the guy at linebacker. For weeks, it kind of just seemed that way. Just kind of waiting on it. It was, a matter of fact, I think I said myself more than once, it was a matter of when, not if. And that's not going to happen. Clemson. Dabo Sweeney at his presser last week, he was very confident in Clemson having a third linebacker locked up in this class. Just turns out it's not who everybody assumed it was. They've brought in C.J. Kuba Taylor for a visit this weekend, offered him while he was in town. He's a teammate of Darian Mayo's, a kid I was not very familiar with going into the weekend. I'm more familiar with him now. I've watched his film. It's impressive. Talked to some guy. I've talked to some people that have watched him play. Had more than one person tell me he's a baller, and he probably, he was a late bloomer. Probably got overlooked a little bit with some of the talent that's on that defense. Everybody I've talked to really likes this kid as a prospect, man. Just very high on him. Mason Wade, who is still publicly committed to Duke, was in this weekend. A 3-star offensive lineman out of Virginia. It's a little unusual for Clemson to bring committed guys in for official visits. So make of that what you will. This is a kid that had a bunch of offers, some good ones too, before he shut it down and committed to Duke. Boston College, Auburn, North Carolina, Tennessee, Missouri, all offered him. I think he's a good prospect. And then portal offensive lineman Addison Nichols was in town on Friday, unofficial visit, based off what he told me. He's been at Tennessee the past 2 years. He'll have 3 years of eligibility left. Went to Arkansas after he went to Clemson. Far as I know, anyways, I haven't touched base with him since he left Clemson. Also visited Georgia Tech. This was a kid that was recruited by a bunch of the big boys coming out of high school. A 4-star kid, had a bunch of good offers. Can't remember them all off the top of my head, but a lot of the big boys were in on him. I think I know Georgia recruited him. Matt Luke was there at the time. I think Florida. Golly, I can't remember who all it was. He had an impressive offer list though. 2025 defensive back Jonte Gilbert was in town again, third trip since he's decommitted from Ohio State over the summer. 2026 running back Jalen McGill was in town. 99% sure that 2025 offensive lineman Braden Jacobs was in town. 99% sure I saw a photo of his dad on campus this weekend. I reached out to him, but hadn't heard back, see if he'd confirm he was there, but pretty sure he was there. That's multiple visits for him, and I think Clemson's in good shape with him, although there's still a long ways to go. And of course, who everybody's asking about, five-star defensive lineman Edric Taylor was in town, or excuse me, Edric Houston was in town this weekend. A little bit of it was a surprise for me. I know that. I didn't even get wind of it till Friday night. I had somebody text me and tell me Friday night, and I had some random person on Twitter text me a little later, telling me there was a five-star on campus. Didn't want to throw no names out there, but no, but I didn't even get it confirmed for sure that he was there until Saturday. Went to Alabama after that. I cannot. I know everybody wants to know about Edric Houston, man, but anybody that read my story today, I don't really have anything to add on top of it. Nobody's talking to me, not about this. I was in Clemson most of last week. You know, for practice Tuesday and Thursday, and the introduction of Matt Luke Tuesday. We were supposed to get Rumpf on Wednesday, but that got pushed back after they get to the bowl site. But I talked to somebody up there, and we were talking about the portal and offensive linemen, and I eventually asked him, why we've not heard anything about any defensive end targets, because I was told a couple of weeks ago defensive end was a position Clemson was going to look at in the portal. So far, not really heard anything about that. So I asked, how come we've not really seen any movement, heard any guys, talk about visiting Clemson or anything like that? And all I was told, some assistants went and saw him earlier in the week. Wes Goodwin, Chris Rumpf went. I'm not sure if anybody else went. I know of some defensive assistants, but they went earlier in the week. Then he came to campus Friday. Then he went on to visit Alabama. Now, does this mean he's flipping? I have no idea, but I don't think you take visits this late in the game, especially when they're on your own dime. He's already taken his official to Clemson and Alabama back in June. So, these were unofficial visits. These are trips that he's having to pay for out of his own pocket. So he's obviously rethinking some things. Let's put it that way. Again, it ought to lead up to some signing day drama, because everybody I know is being tight-lipped on this thing. I don't know if maybe that means there's nothing to tell. I got a feeling, based off one conversation I had yesterday, that they wanted to keep this thing kind of on the down low, hush hush, and it ended up getting out. It's hard to get a guy like that on campus sometimes, and nobody ever find out about it. But it happens from time to time. But in the internet age, it's harder and harder to do. But so that's kind of where we stand on that, as far as anything that I know, which isn't really a whole heck of a lot. Outside of the fact that he was there. Some of the assistants went and seen him earlier in the week. He went to Bama after Clemson, and he might not even sign on Wednesday. He is expected to sign during the early signing period, but he might not sign on Wednesday. We'll see. It does give you something to look forward to, though. Gives you a little bit of drama as we head into signing day this year. And again, Clemson doesn't have a whole lot of that. You got to think, that there's some early playing time to be had here if Houston were to pick Clemson. Clemson's pretty thin at the end, losing Maskell and XT. Outside of TJ Parker, there's little to no experience. You got guys like Cade Denoff, Zaire Patterson, AJ Hoffler, and that's about it. David Ajabe's transferred out. So there are opportunities here to be had. He can look at what TJ Parker did as a freshman and say, hey, maybe I can come in and do the same thing, because I think he is definitely a plug and play type talent. Absolutely. So that is where we stand on him. Um, this class probably gonna be a little bit bigger than I originally thought it was gonna be 6 months ago. I can see it being 23, 24, 25. Even though it's only 18 right now. So it's gonna make for a busy, busy day for me tomorrow. Busy day Wednesday, but signing day is always fun. I think I figured I'd look over here and most every question would be about Edric Houston. Sure enough. Oh, I like this one. Do you feel Riley is kind of Dabo is kind of handcuffing Riley to not let him bring in his own QB? Blake Ebert's Riley's handpicked guy. I mean, that's who he wanted. He went up and watched him throw last summer, got him to come down to camp to throw for him at camp, and that's who he wanted. And they made the decision after having so much trouble landing a 2024 guy. They told him, "Hey, look, we're just not going to take a 2024 guy. We're all in on you." And um, that is Riley's handpicked guy. So I don't know that he's handcuffed in any way. That's the guy he wanted. That's the guy they got. Blake Hebert. It's just in the 2025 class, not in 2024. Is Vizina's development moving in the right direction? We didn't hardly see him this season. Well, I would say there's a reason you didn't see him this season because that's how far he's got to go. I thought it was pretty evident in the spring how much development still needed to happen with him. He was pretty raw coming out of high school. A lot of talent, a lot of tools to work with, but raw. I think this is a big, big offseason for him. Clemson really needs somebody that is capable of, even if he's not going to push him for the Klubnik for the starting job, Klubnik needs to be pushed. He needs to be pushed. He needs the competition. You know, the iron sharpens iron. That old adage is true every time. So they need a big offseason from Vizina. He needs to take a big jump from where he was this time a year ago, or where he was heading into his first spring. Let's put it that way. He needs to be a lot better this spring than he was last spring. At the same time, again, listening to Dabo talk the other day, they're not rushing him. They know they've got Klubnik in here for at least a couple more years, and they say they're right on schedule and they're executing their plan with Zena. They kind of saw it playing out this way. They knew he wasn't going to come in here and play year one or play year two, and was going to need some time. But I think that's a good question. How much of a jump is he going to take from freshman season to sophomore season? Because a lot of players take their biggest jumps from in between year one and year two. I don't think we're going to know the answer to that until we get to spring, though. Um, we got to watch practice a little bit Tuesday and Thursday, but it wasn't. It was a lot of individual drills, and I'll be honest, Klubnik wasn't even there Tuesday. He had finals, and I didn't spend much time watching the quarterbacks. Now I was watching the two new assistants, and again, it was just like individual drills. Sometimes they don't let us see a whole lot. So I mean, there's not a lot to be discerned from that, anyways. Um, you'll be hard pressed though to find somebody that puts in more work than Vizina. There's a lot of times he's one of the last guys off the practice field. Sometimes after games, he's out there throwing in the valley by himself. Well, not by himself, but out there throwing in the valley, out there throwing on the field while everybody else in the locker room. He's got one person from the support staff out there with him catching balls. I mean, he works on his craft. He's doing the work. We'll see how much it pays off come spring. Somebody asked me about John Tay Gilbert. Oh, here we go. Do you see John Tay Gilbert committing anytime soon? Not before the spring. Probably not. No. Not based on the things he said. Anyways, it sounds like he's gonna at least carry it through the spring. I think he's got a visit coming up to South Carolina here in the near future. But I really like where Clemson stands as we sit here today. It's kind of one of those deals where you follow the visits. He's been to Clemson 3 times. It is now, I think it is. You don't visit a place that many times if you don't have genuine interest. And that's the same thing I used to say about Edric Houston, as we went into last summer, because Houston had visited for multiple games during the 2022 season. He was back in January for the junior day, then he was back for the big official visit weekend. He visited Clemson 4 or 5 times over a 12-month period there, and something kept drawing him back, and now he's been back again since. So we'll see if they can finish the deal off on both those guys. This one's interesting to me. Chandler Morris just entered the transfer portal. For those that don't know, Chandler Morris is Chad Morris's son. He's at TCU, got hurt and lost a job there. This one's intriguing to me, but it would depend on what Chandler's looking for, right? They're definitely not going to promise him a starting gig or anything. If he's okay with coming here and competing and maybe not being the starter, maybe he's a guy you take a look at. Because I think it's going to take the right guy in the right circumstance for Clemson to even look for a portal quarterback. And listening to Dabo Sweeney the other day, and I'm not getting my hopes up on that. I don't think it's going to happen. But if it were to happen, I could see it being this kind of scenario here with Chandler Morris. Chad Morris is already back, kind of halfway on the staff, in a volunteer role. Last I heard, anyways. I don't know if that's changed or where it will change before next season, but and a lot of that was due to the fact he wanted to be able to go to Chandler's games. This one is intriguing. I know Dabo said they don't really have any intention on bringing in another portal QB, but if Paul Tyson, you right now as it stands today, you've got 3 on scholarship: Tyson, Azina, and Klubnik. Um, no, they don't have a bunch of open spots. It might, we'll have to see who bolts after the game or the bowl game and who's coming back and all that good stuff. But there's not going to be a whole lot of room to work with here. And I would assume that Pierman's going to go on scholarship. People are going to hate that, but that kid can play, man. Talking about, I think he won Gatorade Player of the Year 2 times in a row in this state. But yeah, Chandler Morris intrigues me because I think the chances of them going to the portal for QB are slim. But if they're going to do it, I can see it being a guy like Chandler Morris. But a lot of that's going to depend on what he's looking for. He might be looking for somewhere he can go start, and that's going to be far from guaranteed at Clemson. And it's probably he'd probably more likely be the backup. I mean, you tell him, hey, you can come in here and compete if you beat Klubnik out, and so be it. But he's definitely not going to be told he's going to come in here and beat a guy or anything. But that one does intrigue me, absolutely. If I'm buffering, am I still buffering? I see a couple people saying I was buffering. Sarian says he looks like a young thumper, sort of like Balin Spector, or maybe Bentley did. I assume you're talking about the linebacker, um, CJ, the teammate of Darian Mayo. Yeah, I like his film, man. For what I've watched of it, he's physical. Um, people are going to call it a fallback take, but I don't know that that's what this is. I kind of, I get it. It's a late take. I get it. Sometimes you can hit on some of these late takes, and I'm a fan of this take. I like him as much as I did Bradley Shaw. There's really when you cut on his film, there is a lot to like about CJ Cooper Taylor. again, I had somebody tell me if he didn't play beside Aaron Childs, he'd probably get a lot more publicity. But at the same time, he kind of was a late bloomer. Um, he was, golly, what was he? He was all state or all region or something in that region good council plays in, which is that's pretty good competition. There's several Power Five guys on that one team alone. Um, Again, Darian Mayo and Aaron Childs. Heck, that's the school that Dorian or Daniel came from. But yeah, I love the Cooper Taylor take. I think he's a good player. I'm not saying he's going to come in and start day one or be into too deep day one, but man, I could see him ending up being a contributor on that defense before it's all said and done. No last minute losses from guys already committed. No, I do not foresee that. I've been of the opinion for a while now that this class is pretty solid. I I don't see any decommitments on the horizon. No. I think if you were going to see it, we'd have already seen it by now. I don't think you're going to see it on any signing day flips or anything like that. I mean, I might be proven to be dead wrong here, but I don't get that vibe from any of the guys I've talked to. They've seemed pretty solid and locked in throughout. I know there was some they tried to create some buzz around the Jama maybe flipping to Auburn, earlier in the season, but I just don't see it, man. I think all these guys are locked in. When do you see Mason Wade make a commitment? Probably Wednesday. Probably Wednesday. Kind of late in the game to be going after wide receiver in the portal. I do not think Clemson is going to be going after a wide receiver in the portal. I know there's a guy out there that said, um, Clemson's been in contact with him, and I get it. I'm sure they've had opening discussions or made brief contact with people, but I do not foresee Clemson taking a wide receiver in the portal unless somebody's leaving that I do not know about at this time. And I've not heard a peep about any of that. Um, as we sit here right now, I expect two to go out, two to come in. The two that's going out, Bo Collins, and I'm expecting this to be it for Brandon Spector. And then you got those two freshmen coming in, and Brian Wesco and TJ Moore. But the portal's open to January 2nd, and there's no set rule that says they have to sign during the early signing period. So it's not necessarily too late to go get one if you wanted to. Um, I still think Clemson's going to try to take a defensive end if they don't get one before on signing day, and obviously that might end up being a guy that has to sign in February. But I still think Clemson's going to look for a defensive end in the portal if it doesn't work out with Houston. Maybe they wait after spring to do it because the portal opens again after the spring. But that's a position I'm told that they were going to try and address. But I don't expect any movement as long as they think they're in it for Houston. No, I don't have anything new on David Sanders. Not that I'm not right off the top of my head. The next thing for him is getting him up on campus in January for elite junior days. Getting Matt Luke on board, Doug, that can only help Clemson's chances with him. Excuse me, I just ate supper. think the secondary is set. I think it would be better than last year. I think we hit on all the freshmen in the secondary. Yeah, I'm extremely high on those young players in that secondary. We've already saw what Avian Terrell can do. We've already seen flashes of what Shelton Lewis is capable of doing. Khalil Barnes at safety. I really like the Colin Griffin kid. Um, I still think Sherrod Koval is going to be a good player, and I love the DBs they've taken in the 2024 class. Noah Dixon. Um, Golly, I'm drawing a blank on the other safety. Just had it in my head. Ricardo Jones, Noah Dixon, and Ricardo Jones, and the two corners, DeFoy Fegan and Corey and Gibson. I think those are four high end guys. And then you've got the late, what looks like be like a late take here, in Joe Wilkinson, the former App State commit, who goes to who's from Rome in Georgia. So I haven't really watched his film yet, but those other four guys, golly, man, I think they hit on all four of them, just like they hit on all those guys in 2023. Mm. My picks in the college football playoff. Let's see. I think Bama's gonna beat Michigan, and I think golly, hold on just a second. I'm looking up something. It wouldn't shock me if Bama won the whole freaking thing, man. All the controversy. I remember the last time there was this much controversy surrounding them getting in, and they went out and won the whole freaking thing. It wouldn't shock me at all to see them win. I think Texas is going to beat Washington, and we're probably looking at a Bama Texas rematch. And telling you, wouldn't shock me if Bama got the best of them this time. I want Pearman to get snaps. Everybody watches him at practice says he's a baller. Yeah, Pearman can spin it. He's just small, man. He's like 5'11", a buck 80 or something like that. He's just a small guy. He doesn't have power five size, but he can play, man. He's got an arm. He can throw it. He's I don't think he's starting material or anything like that, but I think he's great for the role that they want him to play. Dabo not giving any other QBs a chance this year, doesn't that speak of the talent that's in the room? Not necessarily. Um, he didn't. You know, I think Chris Vizina's got a lot of talent. I just don't think he's ready. I don't think Hunter Helms is a Power Five quarterback. Um, there's talent. I think Pearman's talented. I think Hebert's going to be a heck of a quarterback. And he just blew my doors off and he threw at camp last season. And I get it, it's against air and all that stuff. But man, he had a little bit of a slow start. But man, he was awfully impressive once he got going. He's got a big arm. I'm looking forward to watching him play when he gets here. But I mean, I'm not real sure what you're asking me. If you're asking me if the quarterback room sucks, I don't think it does. You got two former 5 stars in there. Um, it it's just they're not Trevor Lawrence and they're not Deshaun Watson. I think fans expect guys to be ready as freshmen or sophomores. They forget about Joe Burrow taking 3-4 years before he was who he was in college. Some guys develop slower than others. It was, I mean, I think all of us talked about Vizina being a guy that was going to need time. I know I said myself he might need 2 years. That's just how raw he was. He didn't play against the best competition there where he was at in high school. Um, But that doesn't mean I don't think he's got talent. Um, I'll say this: Klubnik's not quite as far along as I thought he would be, but that doesn't mean that I'm ready to throw in the white towel on him. His good's really good. It, if he can put it all together, I think he's going to be a hell of a quarterback. I think the game just still needs to slow down for him a little bit. I think he needs to get more help from the guys around him. Let's see. From the text line, people talking about late takes. Do they forget how late we got in on ETN? Yeah, there's been several late takes that worked out for Clemson pretty well. ETN being one, Trenton Simpson being one. There's been a few over the years. The wide receiver from Tulsa does not have an offer from Clemson. Those a lot of the portal recruiting these days. If a guy's trying to, a lot of it's about money and kids trying to drive up their price. If you've got a player who tweets out this graphic saying, "Hey man, these are all the schools that have reached out to me," that player might be trying to drive up his price with the schools that are really pursuing him. I think that is what the Herring kid did when he announced his offer from Clemson publicly, because he blew up. As soon as he announced that thing, he got tons and tons of offers just poured in. Penn State being one of them, which is where he ended up. Um, the 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 more heavily pursued you can make yourself out to be, maybe the more you drive your price up. And I'm not saying that's what this kid's doing, because I don't even follow this kid. I haven't tracked him at all, and I'm not gonna be tracking him because, like I said earlier, I'm not expecting Clemson to take any portal wide receivers. I'll be shocked if they do. Um, I get it. The guy saying that Clemson's reached out to him, maybe they did. Maybe they reached out to him for a preliminary discussion, but I don't know anything about any offer to any wide receivers in the portal. Yeah, I'd be curious to know what outlet said that. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time I've been wrong, but I'm pretty confident on that one. Updates on Shaw. That this one, I'll be honest with you. I started to get into this a minute ago. I touched on it and then kind of forgot about it, but I'm kind of kicking myself over this because I should have seen it. Him holding off on announcing a commitment so long should have been a red flag. Should have been a red flag. Um, Hayes Fawcett didn't say Clemson offered that kid. He just said that's the schools that have reached out to him. Um, but back to Shaw. Him taking so long to make a decision should man that thing should have sent off red flags everywhere in my head, and it didn't. I don't know why. Um, he kind of left the door open for somebody else to come in there, and I'll be honest with you, nobody has come outright and told me this. Um, but kind of reading between the tea leaves here on some things I have heard, I think Clemson got outbid and decided he was not worth a guy that he was not a guy worth overspending on. That's kind of the way I took it. And they really like the Cooper Taylor kid. No, I don't think Shaw's. That I know one's a 4-star and one's a 3-star. I just don't pay that much attention to stars, man. Kids can take big jumps from their junior seasons to their senior seasons, and I think Cooper Taylor did. Heck, Darian Mayo is a prime example of that. That kid took a massive jump from junior to senior. when he committed, I thought he was a developmental guy that was going to need a year, maybe two. I could see him coming in here and compete for early playing time. He took such a big jump as a senior. So, but that's kind of where things are with Bradley Shaw. I'm pretty sure he's Arkansas bound. Is Tyler Brown wide receiver one? This is actually pretty interesting because I see somebody else there saying Antonio Williams is wide receiver one. Both these guys are slot guys, right? You got to find a way to get them both on the field at the same time. Something Clemson was going to have to do much earlier in the season had Antonio stayed hurt. I said it way earlier, back before Antonio got hurt, and when he was trying to come back from the first injury, that Clemson was going to have to figure out a way to get both those guys on the field, and I figured they'd move Antonio outside. And I kind of still see it playing out that way because you got to figure out a way to get both of them on the field. And maybe you move Antonio outside, Tyler Brown stays in the slot, and we'll see what they do at the boundary. I'm guessing it'll be Adam Randall and Troy Stellato is still going to get a lot of snaps. So there's four guys right there. Ronan Hannafin, I don't know what happened to him. He was full go Tuesday at practice, come back Thursday, he's not dressed and he's in a walking boot. So I guess we'll get an update on him Wednesday, but I'm very confident about his availability. Not that he's played a whole bunch at receiver anyways. Good thing. It does sound like Antonio's on track to play because I actually asked Dabo about that Tuesday and he sounded pretty confident he was going to play. Couldn't see the red flags because you had the shades on. Yeah, there's a few pair floating around out there right now. Yeah, anybody that's looking for an update on Houston, back it up to the beginning. I touched on that at the very beginning. Yeah, Drew Woodaz is a part of this class too. You got three linebackers coming in: Sammy Brown, Drew Woodaz, and now it's expected that the Cooper Taylor kid is going to be a part of the class. He's not committed yet. It just all signs point that way. Brown's a guy that I think is going to come in and play. Not doubt he starts day one, but he's going to come in and play. He's going to be on the field. Don't know about Woodaz. We'll see where he is when he gets here, but we've heard Wade Woodaz say in the past that Drew's more athletic than he is, and I've been told that Drew's probably going to be a little more polished coming out of high school than Wade was, and Wade got on the field as a freshman. Admitted after his freshman season, or admitted earlier this season that he probably wasn't strong enough last year. That was one of his goals going into this year, was to get stronger, because he realized playing Tennessee in the Orange Bowl that he needed to be a lot stronger than he was. So Drew might face some of those similar things. He might need to get stronger. I think Clemson's in a little bit better spot at linebacker right now than they were when Wade came in as a freshman, because you got Barrett Carter coming back, Kobe McLeod, Jamal Anderson, D. Creighton. Those guys, are all there right now. So there's a little bit of talent to work with, and Clemson's playing. They've kind of gone with more two linebacker looks here this season than they had in the past. They always went with a Sam, going with three linebackers, a Mike, a Will, and a Sam. This year it was more of a Mike and a Will and a nickel that they, let a safety fill that role. So a little bit better of a spot. You're in a little bit better of a spot linebacker than you could have been, especially if Carter and Trotter both left. Man, I think Carter coming back is huge for Clemson. Huge. Do I see Noble Johnson leaving? No, not right now. I think if Noble was a guy that was going to leave, he probably would have been gone. He was another guy to me it was pretty obvious in the spring, and I was high on Noble Johnson because he was another guy that blew my doors off when I watched him at camp in the summer of 2022. He came out here. I didn't really know a lot about him until I knew he was coming to Clemson to work out. Um, but he really impressed me at camp, and he earned his offer with that workout at camp. And I thought he was a guy that could come in here and help as a freshman. Then once I saw him in the spring, I realized, nah, he's a guy that needs a year, kind of acclimate. It'll be interesting to see what kind of jump he makes from year one to year two, though, because man, I think I still think he's got a lot of potential. I'm not saying he's going to be this alpha dog, number one boundary receiver, or anything like that, but I think he can help Clemson. I think he can be a contributor. I think he can make an impact. How much we see of him in the bowl game, I don't know. Probably not a lot. Assuming you got guys like Antonio and Tyler and um, Stellato healthy. That those would probably be the four guys they roll with the most. You might see him get a few snaps. We'll see. Who do I think is the replacement for Bo? Um, some people look at Bo leaving as a big loss. I'm not one of those guys. I think this is one of those deals where both program and player can benefit from a fresh start. Um, I think Bode kind of hit his ceiling at Clemson and probably needs to go and play in a different system with a different quarterback and in his last year. And I also think Clemson's got to be much better out on the boundary than they have been with Bo. Now, who's going to replace that production? I don't know, but somebody needs to do more than just replace it. They need to come in and surpass it. Clemson has had big time problems pushing the ball down the field and hitting explosive plays in the passing game. And Bo was a part of that. I'm not saying he's the sole reason or anything. I'm just saying he played a part in that. So did quarterback play, so did offensive line play, so did some of the others. I mean, it was a whole group effort, but Bo played his part too. Those two receivers, particularly Bryant Wesco, who's going to enroll early, if he can come in here, if he's at the right weight, that guy's going to have opportunities, man. He's going to have opportunities to come in here and play day one. I think TJ Moore will probably have the same opportunity, despite the fact he's not an early enrollee. We saw Antonio Brown do it in 2022, saw Tyler Brown do it in 2023. Receivers don't really have to be early enrollees to come in and have an impact. So, to me, those are my top two candidates right there. With Bo gone, I would Randall can play the boundary. Stellato, I mean, in a pinch, Stellato could probably go out there and play the boundary if he had to, but I imagine it'll be Adam Randall. I feel like the wide receiver room next year will be the best in a while. Who do you think are the odd ducks out? Here plenty of times, but whatever it is that's keeping him from getting over that hump, he's gonna have to work on that and get over it during the off season because it's time they're bringing in some dudes that will pass him by if he's not careful. I still think he can be a big part of things, but if he's not careful and he's still playing timid and playing slow, he could be one of those guys that ends up being on the outside looking in. I could see, depending on what happens with Noble Johnson and where he is going into the spring, maybe he needs another year. Ronan Hannafin might need another year. So those would be my early candidates for guys on the outside looking in when it comes to the rotation next year. Who do you think is dark horse offensive player of the year next year? Dark horse. Let me think on that for a second. Yeah, if we're saying dark horse or somebody that's not, give me TJ Moore, man. I don't know. I think that guy's gonna come in here ready to roll day one. He's already pushing 200 pounds. I'm not sure where Wesco is from a weight standpoint yet. These recruiting sites have him listed at 175, 180. He's gonna need a little bit more bulk than that, but I think TJ Moore is closer to being ready to go physically. And Wesco will have time to put that weight on. Don't get me wrong, but or at least put a little bit on. But give me TJ Moore, man. I think he's going to be a big part of things next year. I think he's going to have a instant impact on this team, and I think Wesco will too. I just think with both those guys coming in together and Moore being the 4-star, Wesco being the 5-star, not one iota. Like I've said in the past, um, I I pay very little attention to the realignment stuff anymore because I think we're headed for a break, just a complete break from the NCAA, and I think it's coming a lot sooner than we all originally anticipated. I used to think it was 10 years down the line. I'm thinking more like 5 now. I think 40, 50, 60 schools are going to break off and go do their own thing. And it's going to be the schools that decide they're going to heavily invest in football. And Clemson has long ago decided they are going to heavily invest in football. So, no, I'm not worried about Clemson being left out what's coming. To me, the bigger question is when it's coming. What's the word on Cole Turner? He's hurt. So yeah, I mean that's why he seems to be like a forgotten piece because he's out for the season. I like Cole Turner, man. He's golly, he can fly. He might be one of the fastest guys on the team. But if he's the starting boundary receiver, man, that that don't give me the warm and fuzzies. It just doesn't. I think I think I think Turner can be a great complementary piece, but I don't think he can be the top dog out on the boundary. I just don't think he's that guy. That's just me. Clemson's stance on bidding wars. Do you see them breaking from policy for major positions of need? Clemson's not getting involved in bidding wars. If a guy's out with his hand out and just looking for you to match this offer or let him take your offer to somebody else, they're not getting in on all that, man. Because that guy's going to be the first one to up and leave next year looking for the next best offer. They don't really want any part of that. So no, they're not going to break from that policy. And people that want them to or expect them to, it's not happening. I think Dabo sees what's coming too. I think he sees there's a total break coming, and this model we're playing under right now, where donors are responsible for paying the players these insane figures they're asking for right now. That's not going to last much longer. I can tell you, donors are already getting sick of it. I know a big donor in this town I live in right now has already told the school, don't call him no more. His checkbook's closed for a while. Um, we're already seeing some donor fatigue. This model's not sustainable. What we're heading towards is collective bargaining, player contracts, schools paying players salaries. That's where we're going. And, you know, once we get to that, I think Clemson's going to be fine. They've always heavily invested in that program, man, and I don't see any reason why they won't continue to do so. It's just, and it's not. They don't. The reason they don't get into bidding wars isn't because they broke or anything like that. I've had, you know, more. I talked to a lot of recruits parents or family members and stuff, particularly during the summertime. And the ones I've talked to about people don't talk a whole lot of specifics when it comes to Clemson's NIL. Not people I talk to, but what I have been told is Clemson offers very affordable or competitive. That's the word that's been used. Competitive NIL packages. Um, but they're just not going to hand you this big old fat blank check. Come in just so you to come in and sign. It's not going to happen. Um, and this model we're seeing now might go on another couple, 3 more years, but I don't think it's going to go on much longer. Again, we're already seeing donor fatigue, and it's not fair for the donors to have to be paying the salaries of these kids, man. There's nothing right about that. They're already paying, donations to the booster club so they can hang on to their season tickets, and they're having to pay for their season tickets and PSLs and whatever goes into all that and parking. And now you want them to pay for the players' NIL too, while the schools aren't paying a dime of it, and the schools are raking in tens and tens of millions of dollars on an annual basis. Yeah, that's not sustainable, man. Not sustainable at all. We've seen the offense this year kind of look the same, didn't it? Do you think Riley used some things from the old offense? We will go full Garrett Riley. I see a lot of differences. I think it looked the same because the results were the same. You know, Riley likes to, run a lot of counters and a lot of traps. He likes to get those offensive linemen out, pull them in, and those are things that weren't a big part of the old offense. I don't buy into this narrative that fans push that Riley's handcuffed and Dabo's not letting him call the plays. I mean, I know for a fact that's not true. Garrett Riley doesn't even take this job under those circumstances. Um, does Dabo ever have any input on play calling? Of course, he's the head coach. Is he sitting there meddling in every play call and not letting Garrett Riley install his offense? No. Um, are there probably some of the same things? Sure. No matter how you dress it up, an inside zone still an inside zone. And Clemson ran a lot of that, particularly over the back half of the season. And that was that their older offense the inside zone was a staple of that thing. But man, there was a lot of new route concepts this year that I could see from sitting up in the press box. There's a lot of different things. I think the reason why it looked so similar is because the results were similar, man. Nothing came easy. It seemed like everything was a struggle. And for me, that started with the play up front. He just didn't have much of a running game. Your quarterback's not as far along as you need him to be, and it just made it all discombobulated. How soon will the coaching changes affect play on the field? Will it be in the proper direction? I would say next season. Um, I'm gonna tell you, man, watching Chris Rump get after those guys for a couple of days, man, it's eye opening. It's a completely different tone than what Lemansky Hall used. Matt Luke was not quite as loud and as boisterous as I was expecting. But those are two proven veteran guys. I don't see why anybody wouldn't be confident in those guys. They've had success everywhere they've been, pretty much. Are they going to come in here and work magic for the bowl game? I wouldn't expect that. I mean, Dabo's got guys out there wearing name tags on their helmet just so they know who they're talking to. But I would expect to see improvement next year. Offensive line wasn't that good this year. That hurt Riley's offense. I think next year we will really see his offense at its best. O-line play has to get better. It can't get a whole lot worse. Yes, I think subpar or less than stellar offensive line play handcuffed what Garrett Riley wanted to do on offense. I don't think it was Dabo Sweeney handcuffing him and holding him on a leash or anything like that. I think the offensive line had a lot to do with it. That's why you saw them simplify things. Once we got to November, they kind of went back to that simplified zone blocking scheme when they played Notre Dame, and they used a lot more of that down the stretch than they were previous to that. But yeah, you don't want to handcuff your offensive coordinator in that way. You want him to be able to open up his playbook. And if your offensive line is not capable of blocking the stuff that he wants to run, you got big problems, man. You got big problems if you cannot run the stuff he wants to run due to offensive linemen's inability to get out and pull or not understand their responsibility or who they're supposed to be on or whatever the reason may be. And I would fully expect this offensive line to be much improved next year. Again, Matt Luke, that guy's been around, man. He's a seasoned guy. He's very experienced. He's coached a lot of talented offensive linemen. And it's not like Clemson's offensive line room is devoid of talent or anything. There's a lot of blue chip talent in that room that I think we kind of forget about because they've not kind of lived up to expectations. But there's a lot of talent in that room. Most of those guys were pretty much 4-star players, some 5 stars, a lot of high 4-star players. And there's been a bunch of them that just haven't panned out yet. Maybe that changes now that they got Matt Luke there, because as much as I like Thomas Austin and what he did in year 1, man, it was just a big time struggle for him in year number 2 once Garrett Riley took over. Dog's got to get her screen time. The bowl game. I cannot get a good feel for this game. It's not the sexiest of matchups. I get it. Clemson, Kentucky. People were probably hoping for Clemson and USC or Clemson LSU or something a little more intriguing. But it's Clemson, Kentucky nonetheless. No, I think I like Clemson's chances in this game, and I know that Kentucky's got most of their guys. Ray Davis is going to play, even though he's headed off to the NFL. They got some guys that are sticking around to play in the bowl game more so than Clemson. Clemson can keep Shelton Lewis and Avion Terrell healthy. I like their chances, man. I really do, especially with this much time to prepare. I admittedly only watched Kentucky play one time all season. I was the South Carolina game, and color me unimpressed. I did not think they were very good. I know they ended up beating Louisville in the rivalry game, but they were not very good the night I watched them play. And and if Clemson loses to that team, it's going to kind of just erase all that momentum you build up over November. I think this is a game Clemson needs to win to kind of keep that momentum going in the right direction heading into the offseason. It'll be a big letdown if you drop this game after going 4-0 down the stretch and beating Notre Dame and North Carolina and South Carolina. You got to finish it off, man. This is a team that has struggled to finish in games this season. Now we'll see if they can figure out a way to finish off the season the right way. No, I think I have totally forgotten to mention, if you have not hit that subscribe button, please do so, man. Hit that like button, hit that. Obviously, we got people loading up the comments, but hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications, and share it with your friends, man. We would greatly appreciate it. Good Lord, my dogs are going back crap crazy in there. Somebody must be here. Kentucky local media is confident in winning. they see Clemson as having too many opt-outs, offense doesn't scare them. The offense doesn't scare anybody, if we're being brutal truth, man. Does that offense scare you? It doesn't scare me. I just don't think Kentucky's going to have much success on the offensive side of the ball themselves. I just see Clemson kind of winning an ugly, low-scoring affair. Got to keep those two corners healthy, though. That'll be key. You got Terrell and Lewis are going to have to play a lot. Got to keep those guys healthy. Signing day, Wednesday. Me and Zach will be up in Clemson covering it all. Again, Clemson, right now they're sitting at 18. No, excuse me. Yeah, 18. Verbal commitments. Wouldn't shock me if that got up to 20, 23, 24 before the end of the day, on Wednesday. Again, should make for a very eventful day. You're going to get a little bit of drama. At least, if nothing else, waiting to see what Edric Houston's going to do. A couple of late guys Clemson moved on, or a couple guys Clemson moved on here late. See if they can finish up the flip with Mason Wade, the guy who's still publicly committed to Duke. The Cuba Taylor kid, the offensive lineman out of the portal, Addison Nichols. So still some guys out there in play that Clemson's going to be waiting for decisions on come Wednesday, because I don't think you're going to hear anything from any of those guys tomorrow. I think they'll all wait till Wednesday and announce on Wednesday. And again, Houston, maybe he announces on Wednesday. Maybe he does. I think he's going to sign during the early signing period, but it might not come on Wednesday. Yeah, that's right, Mike. Elijah Thurman's another one they're still waiting on. He's going to announce on Wednesday. Like I said, we're at 18 right now. I can see it getting up to 23 minimum before it's all said and done. Me and Zach's going to be right back here Wednesday night, man. We'll recap it all. We'll talk about the players who have officially signed. Anything else that happens, any surprises. Maybe you get that big signing day surprise this year. At least there's the chance of one. So we'll see how it plays out. As always, appreciate everybody who tunes in each and every Monday night. Looking at this thing over here, man, we had a heck of a crowd in here tonight. I think we had over 200 people watching at one time. I can never thank everybody enough that tunes in here each and every Monday night and has made this thing what it is. It's one of the highlights of my week. Started as a little something I did spontaneously on Facebook one night. Now it's grown into this weekly thing every Monday night. Thank everybody. Bottom of my heart. See y'all right back here next Monday night, 7 p.m. And don't forget, Paul Talk Wednesday night special signing day edition. We'll be right back here at 7 p.m. Till then, see y'all next time.